Hello again. So the rain has passed. I've had my latest session with the crisis team and feel much, much better for it. It's nice to talk to people who are not hostile. Um, as I said, I've having to encounter unprecedented sort of psychological abuse at the moment because of the corruption I've uncovered. Um, so now with the blue sky and the rain gone, I'll return to the statement. So part 6 has been partitioned into A and B, this B and B. So Rachel Hudson has been made aware that we will publish a range of material both relating to our case and others evidencing corruption and racism. That's very true. So in terms of this, these harassment allegations, if identifying that the judges been associated with racism and corruption as harassment, then so be it. And I've shown you that she accepted an unsigned statement, issued a long-term care order on the basis that a statement would be produced that never was. The person who was alleged to have made that statement says that she never saw it, and so on and so forth. I've also given you lots of different issues about racism. She was aware of grave concerns about our daughter's heritage, which has been destroyed, to ram her into this long-term care order model. Um, and make her a cash generative asset. I would contend that that certainly this council and the family court, South Tyneside Council and the family court system here in Newcastle, and indeed you can expand this out according to our research nationally. The UK is engaging in mass psychological abuse of children to deconstruct their emotions and detach them from their families emotionally, to ram them into a long-term care order model, generating long-term government-backed cash flow streams, inflation protected, to private equity-owned institutions, agencies. So yes, very much so. As you know, Hudson has put herself in a terrible position by trying to say uh, that I spray painted the car. This is quite absurd. Clearly, I'll have to take legal advice on this from a defamation point of view. Shouldn't really go this far. By the way, the Northumbria police officer Lloyd, 1812, still not responding to requests to provide guidance on the return of our devices. And that to me is part of a program of psychological abuse trying to put me into a desperate position. So back to the statement. On the 19th of November 2025, I was arrested on the orders of Rachel Hudson, citing harassment. I do believe it is on the orders of Rachel Hudson because if you imagine, let's look at this car issue. So it was backdated almost 10 months. There's no evidence been provided. She's trying to say that it coincided with emails that were sent. The emails that were sent were relating to corruption and racism and serious shortcomings in the process of which she presided over. They are legitimate. I will publish further evidence on that. If you imagine a situation where, I hope this doesn't happen to you, that essentially somebody damaged your car, you may have had an argument with somebody or so on and so forth, and suspected somebody. And you raise it with the police would approach those people and say, look, what do you know about this, if anything? Where were you at certain times and so on? They wouldn't cuff them. They wouldn't drag them out of the house, not wearing shoes. They wouldn't steal their devices. They would be discussed humanely. I was not given that opportunity to defend myself. They stole my devices, which I would use to help assist in that. I engage in uh, almost what I would call forensic research. Damaging someone's property would destroy all the validity of that research. Um, Ironically, we have spoken to other people who feel they've had their lives destroyed by Rachel Hudson, who I think ultimately will come forward Um, uh, it's quite interesting that let's say these incidents happen, this spray painting. I don't think it's people we've spoken to, because we wouldn't deal with someone who uh, engages in vandalism, because it ruins everything. So it is interesting that potentially someone out there has done this. And I imagine they must be holding very serious grievances as well. I don't imagine that she looked at cases she was passing judgment on around this time, January and February of 2025. I doubt people who may have felt aggrieved at that point of time have been harassed to the level I have. It'll be interesting for us to follow that up. Back to the statement. Relating to the allegations were claims that I had spray painted her car in January and February 2025. No credible evidence was offered to support this claim. I was briefly shown two black and white photographs of poor quality. Those photographs actually looked like they were taken off a phone. I was told, I think you can just about make it out, one incident was somebody had used white paint, another had used yellow paint. Actually, when Northumbria police forced their way into my property, they were very clumsy, and particularly Lloyd. They were slinging these out and letting things slip. And started talking about damage to a car and spray paint, and we were really questioning that under severe duress, of course. And my wife was put into left traumatized by the brutality of Lloyd and his colleagues at the behest, we believe, of Judge Rachel Hudson. And she kept saying, "What are you looking for? What are you looking for?" They kept saying spray paint. Then another one denied it, said, "Oh no, it's not." And then she was being told different things, and she will attest to this. And if they make their cam material available, um, this will pick up on that. It was clearly a front to be able to strengthen some kind of order that they'd secured to be able to terrorize us. Because we've identified extraordinary levels of corruption in the family court system and the care system. And if you add that to the corruption I've identified at the FCA in terms of the current system of regulation favouring the reputation of the regulator over the victims of financial scandals. Often the regulator has failed in those. You can get some ideas of the scale uh, of inconvenience this is causing, shall we say. So back to this. The interviews, the interviewing officer attempted to manipulate me into a confession. I was not permitted to take any copies. So what I said to him is, "Can I take these copies away?" The chap wasn't Lloyd who interviewed me. There were two officers. One was relatively quiet. The other one was effectively a very crude checker foot soldier. Probably I'm doing him an overestimation in that, because the checker were very vicious, but they were actually quite structured. He was very clumsy, crude, had quite a very basic vocabulary. What he tried to do is he tried to say, right, when your wife, and she named me in this email as well, sent to court system asking for an explanation of this unsigned statement and where we could find it and why it had been accepted in that format. He then tried to say, because you received a response was effectively saying the case is closed, etc., which I'm going to publish this, by the way, and saying the case is closed, etc. Surprise, surprise. I then vented my fury by attending wherever she lives, and spray painting her car. So that's what he put in. And he said, "You did that, didn't you, Gary?" He did. So he was trying to. He knew I couldn't defend myself, but he was trying to manipulate me. I was very tired, very distressed, and he was trying to effectively manipulate me into a confession. I, of course, wasn't there. I do not know where she lives. I do not need to know where she lives. I don't know what car she drives. I do not need to know what car she drives. I'm interested in the flow of money. I'm not interested in vehicles or property. It's the flow of money relating to this care system that is of interest to me, and how it relates to the financial system. Spray painting a car would destroy hundreds of hours of research. I believe this mendacious allegation was used as a pretext to seize our devices. Further, I believe when the devices are returned, of course, as I said to you, Lloyd is refusing to do that. He's engaging in psychological warfare to try and wear us down in not even responding to our polite inquiries about our devices. So I believe when these are returned, it is possible this claim will be dropped owing to no credible evidence. The claim will be dropped eventually because there is no credible evidence. It's absurd. But I kind of feel that what they might have done is stuck it in there, knowing it wasn't true. Bearing in mind, you know, these alleged incidents with 11 months ago. They put them in there to seize the devices, to see what we know about Hudson. They won't find what they're looking for. And that's why they're frustrated at the moment. But so I believe eventually they'll say, oh, no, it wasn't you. There isn't any evidence against you. Surprise, surprise. And later, or if we go on later and I have to go into defamation against her and say, look, you've made these allegations with no evidence, they'll have to be dropped eventually. But they still achieved their objectives, which was to seize our devices and terrorize us in our own home. That's what I'm coming from here. Whilst I was in the custody of Northumbria Police, which I measure from the point of arrest, I suffered physical and mental abuse. At present, I am in fear of my safety and that of my wife. That's very much true. Lloyd, officer 1812, who's the investigating officer, refusing to engage with us about the return of the devices, physically assaulted me in the back of the car. Essentially what he tried, I was distressed, I wanted to see my wife. They were terrorizing her, in my opinion. They hadn't explained why they were taking her device. They'd offered no guidance on that. They just steamrolled in and terrorized her, a Polish citizen. I wanted to see, got sight of her, that she was okay. What Lloyd tried to do is he lost his temper and he leant in on the back seat. And he's tried to, when I challenged him on this, saying he was trying to apply a seatbelt. If he was trying to apply a seatbelt, he would say, I need to put a seatbelt on you. But he didn't. So he leant across me and applied pressure to my arm and my upper arm and neck area. Left me with a feeling of a dead arm for quite some time. Also, the cuffs were too tight. I arrived at the station and I had quite a lump on the bone on my right arm and I had some cuts on the left. And I said to the desk sergeant, custody sergeant at the time, that I needed some compress to try to deal with the pain and swelling. I had to self-administer. That wasn't forthcoming. I had to self-administer first aid in the cell by using a basin with intermittent lukewarm water. The psychological abuse was also the fact that I was dragged from the property without my shoes, not given the dignity to even put on my own shoes. I have also received threats from South Tyneside Council when resisting the destruction of my younger daughter, this is, Polish heritage. And that's true. And I will go on to that in the next part, which is part 7 of this journey. Take care. Bye.